This morning by Otto Warmbier's loving parents who have been through hell. I mean, it's just unbelievable to listen to them talk about their son this way. And the only reason that they are going forward and doing this is because they want North Korea to be put back on the state sponsors of terror list. This is something they feel they can do at this point. And you look at all of the rhetoric in the press about North Korea and how we need to be concerned about having enough respect to use his proper name. Marc, Thiessen, American Enterprise Institute scholar, Marie Harf, former State Department spokesperson, both are Fox News contributors. Welcome to both of you from D.C. this evening. Marc, let me get your thoughts on this first, based on that video and that back and forth.
So, I mean, I think the idea, first of all, your heart goes out to the Warmbier family. I mean, I can't imagine what it would feel like to go into an ambulance and see your son in that condition. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And they're absolutely right. This is a terrorist regime. They were on the terrorist list for 20 years. They were taken off in 2008 by the Bush administration as part of a deal, not because they gave up their support for terror, but because they agreed to give up their nuclear weapons, which they clearly have not done. So there's no reason why they shouldn't be put on the terrorist list as part of an effort to try and resolve this peacefully by increasing the pressure on the regime.
So, Marie, what would putting them back on that list do to the current escalation of tensions? Would it have any impact?
Well, I think it would send a message, but you know, it's interesting what Marc said. The state sponsor of terrorism list is really a list for countries that sponsor international terrorism. And I'm not by any means arguing that the North Korean regime isn't incredibly brutal. I think we should use every tool we have to squeeze them, to tighten the pressure. I'm not sure putting them on that list would impose new sanctions, for example. I'm not sure what it would do beyond being a symbol. And that may be a good symbol, but I think we need to be very careful about using that list and how we use it.
Well, they qualify.
Do they qualify? Are they supporting international terrorist organizations?
They built a nuclear reactor for Syria, which is a state sponsor of terror. They provide ballistic missile technology to Iran, which is a state sponsor of terror. They provide missiles to Hezbollah and to Hamas. They built a tunnel network for Hezbollah to use to launch rockets
Marc,
into
they're
Israel.
Doing all those things that you
they're
say,
a terrorist organization.
If they're supporting Hamas and Hezbollah, if they are, then you're absolutely right. They should be on that list. I think that, you know, when the Bush administration undertook the process of taking them off of that list, I know they looked at a lot of these different issues, and I agree it was also because of the nuclear issue that they got taken off. I think that going forward, we need to look at every tool we have, and that could possibly include this list, to put more pressure on North Korea. But at the end of the day, this regime has shown that it doesn't care about international pressure. It doesn't care about getting scolded at the UN. Its brutality has continued despite all of that.
So isn't, you know, the current escalation of rhetoric perhaps the last best weapon? You listen to so many people talking about how appalled they are that the president's using the language that he's using. But in the past, all the best good efforts of the Bush administration, Marc, as you point out, and administrations prior to that, going back to the Carter administration, did lots of different forms of what some might call appeasement in order to get a bit of a deal from North Korea, and it hasn't worked. Marc.
You're absolutely right, Martha. I mean, the Reagan administration, during the reason that we didn't have a hot war with the Soviet Union is because the Soviet Union, we actually went in, historians went in and looked at the Soviet archives after the Soviet Union collapsed. The Politburo minutes are there, and they thought Ronald Reagan was willing to launch a nuclear first strike. And so that fear is what prevented them from taking a lot of actions that would have precipitated that kind of a crisis. I don't think that Kim Jong-un believes that Donald Trump is actually going to carry out a military strike on his country. He seems to think that he's pretty safe. And so I think one of the reasons Trump is doing this is to get the notion through his head, because the best way to get a peaceful solution is if the North Koreans understand that he's deadly serious about taking a military option if they don't do something.
Right. We got to leave it there. But today the president did say that if they were to take the action of shooting down any of our jets, that would be something that we would have to respond to with the military option. Marie and Marc, good to see you always both.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you very much.